Welcome back, Life Sciences, from your wee break. Okay, guys, we're looking at plants. Our first section, we looked at plant organs, and then we looked at plant tissues, actually plant tissues, then plant organs, and we finished and we looked at the root and we looked at the stem, and now we're going to look at the leaves. All right, the leaves are a really important part of this because the leaves are going to be involved in quite a lot of functions that the plant needs to be able to do. Right, as I said to you, the roots absorb water, and we saw that how it's structured to absorb the water. The stems, they're more structured support, right? They had parenchyma, sclerenchyma in it, far more strengthening tissues. Now, when it comes to the leaf, there's two functions that the leaf needs to perform. So let's start having a look at that. Guys, the first thing that a leaf has to do, right, is the process of photosynthesis. Now, this is the equation that we need for photosynthesis, and the reason why I've put it up is because knowing this enables you to be able to look at the structure. So what do we need here? Now, have a look. The leaf needs the following: carbon dioxide. So somehow carbon dioxide must get into the leaf. The leaf also needs water. Where would that water have come from? Yes, precisely. It would have come from the soil into the roots, up from the stem. Now what happens is photosynthesis occurs in the leaf. The reason why the leaf is green, it has a very special organelle called a chloroplast, which, when triggered by sunlight, a whole lot of reactions occur. The plant, the leaf, makes glucose, right? A sugar, which it's going to store in starch. And what it also produces is oxygen, which is a gas which has to get out of the leaf. So when we look at the process of photosynthesis, the leaf needs to be able to get in carbon dioxide to get out oxygen, right? The leaf needs to ensure that the chloroplast receives a lot of sunlight. And the plant needs to ensure that there's water coming up from the root. So now let's have a look at the structure of a leaf. So guys, a leaf is usually what we call dorsiventral. It has a top and it has a bottom. Now, when we look at this diagram, we need to keep in mind, I've put at the top over here, all right, the equation for photosynthesis. So how do we get things in? Well, the first thing that will happen, here's your xylem. What is xylem going to bring in? Xylem is going to bring in water. And its target is going to be all of these cells over here. They are parenchyma cells. They are called palisade and spongy cells, but remember that is a specialized name. They are parenchyma. But they have chloroplasts in them. So if they've got chloroplasts in them, they become a tissue called chlorhynchoma. Okay, so what can happen here? They can photosynthesize. So we've got the water coming in from the xylem. They've got the water all sorted. All right, now I need carbon dioxide. Where on earth do I get carbon dioxide from? Okay, because I go back to my plant tissues and I know this is epidermal tissue. At the bottom on a leaf, what do I have? I have specialized epidermal cells called stomata. And what can come in and out? There we go. Carbon dioxide can go in and oxygen can go out. So there we go. I've got my gases sorted. I've got my chlorophyll sorted because there's lots of chlorophyll in here. How do I sort out my sunlight? Nice and easy. Look at these cells over here. Where are they? They're at the top. Where does sunlight come in? I'm going to put the sunlight, here we go. Where does sunlight come in? From the top. Guys, these two layers, the cuticle and the epidermis, they are transparent. What does that mean? Sunlight comes straight through, all right? Straight through. Photosynthesis occurs. All of these spaces over here, this is where the gases are also going to accumulate. So I've got the perfect, there's my formula. All of these things are going to ensure that my leaf is adapted for photosynthesis. As I said to you, you obviously also need to look at it. The next thing that we're going to look at is this concept of transpiration. Right, so guys, when I go back, let me go back to this leaf over here. Generally what happens in a leaf on the lower surfaces, yes, you can find some at the top, but generally we want the stomata to be at the bottom. The reason being, the less sunlight, what do we want the sunlight for? We want the sunlight for photosynthesis. We put them here at the bottom. Reason being, transpiration is when we lose water, all right? And that's an important part of the process, but I want to keep you this in mind. We don't want a plant to lose water all of the time. What happens if a plant, say for example, a plant lives in a very, very dry area? Do we want it to lose water? No, we don't. Right, so we've got to come up with ways in which we are going to stop that from happening. Okay, so the first thing we looked at, how is a leaf adapted, right, to photosynthesis? The next concept is the concept of transpiration. Now this is going to link, right, to the next concept that we'll do just now, is the movement of water through a plant. Okay, so let's have a look. What is transpiration? So guys, what happens is water, most of the water that a plant absorbs, it actually loses through water vapor. What do I mean by water vapor? It's a gas, you can't see it. Okay, that's a very important concept that you need to understand. And again, that's going to move by a process of diffusion. And what is diffusion? The movement from a high concentration to a low concentration. Now guys, water loss is quite important in plants because why? Because the plants can't always keep the water because the water needs to go back into the atmosphere, right, as part of the water cycle. That's why it's so dangerous when we're cutting down trees, right, in the forest, Amazon rainforest, etc. Why? This water vapor that the plants give off are so important to the balance in our cycle. So guys, we have, all right, these stomata, and these stomata are, we go for red, are specialized epidermal cells. They are different to the normal ones. They have chloroplast in. Their one wall is slightly different to the other, and they can open and close. All right, so not only is oxygen and carbon dioxide going to be exchanged, but very importantly, water is going to be lost through the pores by transpiration. Now, if you have a look here, transpiration, all right, is when a plant loses water. Now, if you have a look at this diagram over here, some of you might recognize it. It's a pine leaf. And pine leaves stay in really dry areas. So look what I do. When I make my leaf smaller, what does my plant do? Decreases transpiration. If I have few stomata, what do? I decrease transpiration. If I put the stomata, if I have a really thick cuticle, what do? I decrease transpiration. All right. So, guys, the plant itself can have an effect on transpiration. But what else has an effect on transpiration? The outside environment. If it's hot, what happens to transpiration? It increases. If it's cold, it obviously decreases. If it's very light outside, it increases, because what does this tomato do? It opens up. Increases. What happens is very windy. Guys, it increases transpiration. And if it's really humid outside, lots of water, it decreases transpiration. Now that's very important, right? Because this is a very important diagram. And again, like the root, this is a question that is asked very often in the past papers. Guys, this is called a photometer. And what a photometer does is it measures the rate, right, of transpiration. What do I mean by that? I mean the speed. Now, if we go back to the previous slide, it's about this, right? The environment. It's got nothing to do how the leaf is, but what the environment will do. So it's an experiment that I can set up. This is a very important one. Guys, transpiration is an important question. It's in nearly any one of your past papers, even this exact diagram. So what you're basically looking at is you're going to be given, say for example, I put a fan on here, which is wind, and I'm expecting the leaves are going to lose water. And what they're going to do is this little air bubble is going to move because the water is going to go up into the stem. And how quickly or how slowly that air bubble moves will tell me how fast or slow transpiration occurs. And as I said to you, it's a really important concept that you understand that things around the environment have a very important role in transpiration. The last concept that I want to look at here is called gutation. Now what happens is sometimes the leaf can't lose water. Maybe it's too humid or whatever, and the leaf can't lose water by transpiration. So what happens is it still needs to lose water. What it does though is it loses water droplets. And alongside the leaf, these little holes called hydrothodes. And you'll see the stomata are usually closed at night. So you will see these early morning because the stomata is closed, right? It can't open. And these little droplets, right, not water vapor, all right, these little droplets is how the leaf is also going to, all right, bring about. Okay, guys, we're going to have a quick break and we'll be right back.